All right, everybody. So as I announced about an hour ago, we've got some new 3D models coming in these boxes here. This is the original 3D model of the PD10. This is the Avidity Arms PD10. This one is about a little over 18 months old, and it's cracked and beat up and like that. We obviously go from plastic to then going to work in metal and then go back to working in polymer, but that mold is not inexpensive, so we want to make sure we have everything just right. When we were at SHOT Show, we got a lot of feedback. We did some more shooting with one of the steel prototypes, obviously, and decided to make a couple of little tweaks, a couple little changes. You can see some major things, like, for example, on this 3D printed model, you can see there's a full-length rail there. The production gun is not going to have a full-length rail. We're only going to have a couple of rail pieces there. It's going to be much more rounded, much more comfortable for inside the waist carry, especially if the front of the gun is going to come out beneath that holster, which it does in many holster designs, we know. So let me go ahead and get this set up, and we'll start getting into boxes here. One of the things, obviously, I know people would be talking about, well, what knife did Rob use when he unboxed? So I've got one of my standby Benchmades here. She got several different Benchmades here because, you know, 3 boxes, you may as well get into 3 different knives. So the process of developing this PD10 has been outstanding. It's been a really cool project to work on. Definitely not something, if you'd asked me 5-10 years ago, you know, do you want to be part of starting a new gun company? Do you want to design your own gun? I probably would have said no. Didn't really see that on the horizon. There's a lot of great guns out there, but this opportunity came up, and it's definitely one I didn't want to miss. So this is one of the existing steel shooters that we've been using. We've been beating this one up pretty good, working on tweaking reliability, things like that. This one was sent to me so that I could go ahead and install some parts into the new plastic. Again, you can see the front end differences here on this rail, how smooth it is here, and we're even changing that a little bit compared to this rail here. So you get to see that process. And one of the things we wanted to make sure was part of this when we announced the company a couple weeks ago and made sure that people got to see some of the prototypes at SHOT Show was, you know, let the community be part of this development. The community has certainly influenced a lot of this, whether they know it or not. Standing on a range, watching thousands of students and thousands of shooters in thousands of classes all over the world, varying skill levels, varying conditions, seeing what works, what doesn't, what works really well for some people and what doesn't work really well for some people. We'll put that off to the side right there for a second. Definitely has heavily influenced what we decided to do on the PD10. I have my personal preferences. Obviously, as you can imagine, most of them, all right, that was another one. I got yet another Benchmade knife here for the 3rd box. As you can imagine, most of my personal preferences are being met on this gun. One of the things that a lot of people have pointed out since we announced the gun is that it's got a relatively long grip compared to what I normally carry. So I normally carry, the last couple years, coming up on 2 years now, an XDS 9mm 4-inch with a short grip. Prior to that, I was carrying a business end customs modified Glock 19. Actually, it was a Glock 23 turned to 9mm, the equivalent of a 19, and then cut down so that the grip was the length of a 26. We called that the Glock 26L. Obviously, a chopped grip means it's going to be easier to conceal, and this PD10, our first gun at Avidity Arms, is not going to have a chopped grip. It's going to have a full-length grip, somewhere between a 19 and a 17 length. And a lot of people question that. You know, well, why are you doing that, Rob? You tend to like short grip guns, and that's true. But the gun that's missing from the market right now, and the gun that a lot of people have asked for, is essentially something like a single stack Glock 19 or a single stack full-size M&P type gun, a 9mm gun that is in fact single stack. So that's the one that's missing. We wanted to come to the market with something that's unique, something people have asked for, but it hasn't been provided. So that's what we're doing. Obviously, there's a lot of other things going on here with the low bore axis. The way we're setting up the trigger, I think, is pretty unique. The fact that we're going to have very little girth, let's say, here in this area. We're really relieving as much as we can on every edge of the grip area to accommodate smaller hands and shorter fingers. What I find is that having watched a lot of people shoot things like the XD that accommodates a smaller hand, larger handed people don't suffer on a gun that's designed to accommodate smaller handed people as much as a small handed person suffers on something like a Glock, which is better suited to a larger hand. So that's one of the big features here, is that this gun should be pretty universal. So as you can see, this is the latest one. This is really excited to get this. It is going to be an ambidextrous safety. That's one of the questions we've had a lot of people ask. What we've done here is we've changed the magazine well. One of the things that came out of early testing that I noticed and several other people noticed is that the mag well, sorry about that, we lost you, a little technical difficulty there. Because we had relieved so much material here for emergency manipulation, stripping of the magazine, we really lost the ability to get much of a bevel there. And with the straight-walled 1911 magazines that we're using the Chip McCormick 10-round, kind of an advanced 9mm 1911 magazine for all the prototyping, we wanted to make sure that we did this better, honestly. So we went ahead and we have much more of a bevel now. We added back about half of that distance. And what that means is you have a little less cutout to grab the magazine on an emergency strip if you have a double feed and you have pressure there. So one of the other changes that we've made here in this last run of prototyping before we go to the final production guns is we've made the base plates we're going to be putting on those 9mm 1911 magazines a little bit wider. So about half the distance we took up there, and we added that back to the magazine. So the difference is essentially the same. And the magazine, because when you start looking at the way like the slide stop and other things protrude from the frame of the gun, we aren't really adding any overall width to the gun itself. What's going to be practical width, as opposed to sometimes you just get the measured width of the grip, or you get the measured width of the slide, and it doesn't accommodate for the things that protrude out from it, like the magazine release and the slide stop. So when we accommodate for those things, the dimensions here will still be within that. You also notice that this is an ICE claw base plate. So even if we didn't have the cutouts here, you're still going to have something to grab onto at the front of the magazine to help you with those emergency strips. We're going to have claw sights, obviously, on the gun as well. Some people have been asking about the curvature of the serrations and why I picked the curved serrations. I've always been partial. The Smith & Wesson Performance Center 945 is one of my favorite guns, and it has those cool scalloped, really aggressive scalloped serrations on the back. The M&P has less dramatic scalloped serrations. I like that. So I like the curve just aesthetically. And what we did was we matched the angle on the claw concave front. We matched that arc to continue down. And now what we're doing, this other piece that I opened up and kind of put off to the side, is we're trying to match that angle a little bit on the slide stop as well. So this new slide stop is a new design from the one that we used on the prototypes that some of you saw at SHOT Show. And I don't know how well you can see that, but it definitely kind of sticks out to the bottom. It's angled out this way. It's not designed to be used as a slide release. It's designed to be used as a slide stop. And that's what we've got here, is we've got a really nice bevel so that we can come up underneath of it and push up to lock that slide. Obviously, it's going to work a lot better once I get it all put together. So that's the new angle on the latest generation slide stop. Another thing that people have asked about, not only the difference between a slide stop and a slide release, because I teach the overhand rack method for getting the gun back into battery, we're treating that as a slide stop, not a slide release. One of the things that happens with a lot of smaller guns is people will hold that slide stop down, and when they hold that down, then the gun will fail to lock open when you have a empty magazine, because you're holding this down. It doesn't matter if the follower is pushing against it. We hope that our design, being very close to the gun at the top where the thumbs are going to be, will make that less likely with the thumbs on this area that's close to the gun, and yet very easy to lock the gun open when you need to, for that, taking the pressure off again in that emergency manipulation situation, or just administratively locking the gun open. We think this design is really going to be a winner on that. The other thing similar is the slide serrations. Why no slide serrations on the front? I don't teach any manipulations for the front of the gun. You know, at the end of the day, I'm an educator. I'm a defensive shooting, personal defense instructor. I'm not just interested in selling guns. So especially the first gun I bring to market, I want it to be congruent with the philosophies that I teach. So people say, well, it doesn't cost anything, put them on there because some people like them. And my response is, well, it costs parts of my soul. So I'm not going to encourage gun handling up here by the muzzle. So we want to put the serrations only on the back end of the slide. So there you go. Real good look at the latest 3D printing prototype of the PD10, Avidity Arms PD10. Good look at the old one. Good look at the new slide stop. And a good look at the new IC claw base plates that are going to be there, and a nice little collection of Benchmade knives. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to be shooting these guns a lot this spring on the tour. We're going to have the guns for people to hold, touch, and for the dealers and retailers and distributors to order at NRA show in Kentucky. Looking forward to that in May. And these guns are going to be in people's hands and holsters this summer. So thanks for your support. Thanks for your interest in the Avidity Arms PD10. And we'll see you at Facebook, Avidity Arms PD10, or the /Rob Pincus or /Rob Pincus Pro, or anywhere on Instagram as well for more information about the guns. And you can go to avidityarmsusa.com. You'll see a countdown. We're probably down about 108 days till the NRA show. And you can subscribe to be on the mailing list to get announcements about further developments and pre-order opportunities when that happens this late spring, early summer. Thanks.